Schedule. We got 2 more people coming, and we've got a note on the door down there, so hopefully they'll find their way up here. We told them where to go to the conference room, and so they show up. Anyway, I'm Gary Porter. I'm the program lead. I'm the whatever you want. My business card that Joe put together for me says I'm the president, but I'm really just the chief cook and bottle washer of this project. We got to tell you, I hope you can see some of the stuff that Joe's got tonight. We have had an incredible 6 months of progress on this program. We went to Nepal. I think we went with very high expectations, and everywhere we turned, we exceeded those. It was mind-boggling. I'm an engineer. I got accused of being giddy at one point. I got accused of skipping down some lake bed on the way to Gorg Shep because we were so excited that everywhere we went, people says, this is a great idea. Tell me more. I want to be part of it. How can I help you? And so it's an amazing accomplishment. So we kind of had 2 teams. Those of us that journeyed up to Gorg Shep and actually worked there for a couple of days and took measurements. Pardon? I said 2 teams. I'm getting the second team. The second team worked even harder because they had to stay in Kathmandu. And the second team then was there to meet with the industry we're going to contract with. Because we've got to start forming alliances now, and we were actually going to build it. There's just one small problem, money. But we keep narrowing things down and into a corner. We know what we got to do. So it's been a really exciting. I mean, some of us have been at this for 6 years. It's been really exciting. You see us go from paper design and concepts to drawings to now people in Nepal, government agencies that have the authority to tell us, can you build within the Mount Everest National Park? If they said no, the game was over. And they not only said yes, they said, oh, yes. We're excited about this. What can we do to help you? And I hope I'm not going to steal Joe's thunder, but the second part of that, when we went there, we needed an exit strategy. None of us are in this project as a long-time job, or there's no money in it, there's no profit to be made because we're volunteers. We will turn the design over. But we needed an exit strategy that said, who will take over the digester once we've got it built and up and operating? And before we left those 2 gentlemen that are presidents of these 2 organizations, they said, we will take it over. We will own it. And so it was just kind of like, you got to be kidding me. We thought they probably want to work on that for a while. So we had good news. And so that's why we're here tonight. We got some new people, which is good. And so, but we're going to start with just quick introductions around the table. I got a pad going around here, I think. Somebody's got it. So we get your name and address so I can haunt you and I don't see you again. So let's start with Harmon.
And I also want to remind you we have 3 people on the GoToMeeting, so we'll probably pass the laptop around so they can actually hear you as well. I'm Carmen Cejudo. I'm a mechanical engineer, former president of the Puget Sound Professionals chapter. And I've been involved with this project since Gary and Dan came and said, we have this crazy idea. How he said, you're right, you're crazy. So here we are. Oh, why don't we go this way?
Okay, I'm Joe Swain. I am the architect representative from Architects Without Borders, and I've been working on the shelter design and actually just general coordination of everything.
I'm Natalie. Hi, this is my first meeting. Carmen invited me. I work with her at PAE. I just started as electrical. I have experience. I volunteer. I don't have a lot of experience, but I have experience with the nonprofit Kilowatts for Humanity. We do rural microgrid design and implementation, and I have been part of the design and implementation of 2 projects. One of them in Biogas, Zambia, and then another implementation in the Philippines. And then I also worked on the design of a microgrid and data acquisition system in Chilokwa, Zambia.
I'm Kathy Schmidt. I'm a mechanical engineer. A little bit here and there when I can. I'm Trey Yang. I am a civil engineer. I've been working with the group about all the site civil, or just the siting and the drain field and all the stuff that happens outside the building on this project.
I'm Laura Chrisman. This is also my first meeting. I'm a chemical engineer. I transitioned into water and wastewater treatment and processes. That's my professional background. And I worked with EWB in Denver on a water supply project in Mexico. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and see what you guys have been doing.
I'm Chris Woodruff. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm very new to Engineers Without Borders, just in the last month or so. I work for MEP firm doing mechanical and plumbing design.
I'm Rowdy Roddick. I'm a chemical engineer, and I've been involved with EWB since about 2010. I was involved with the UW chapter, and I just recently moved back to Seattle, so I'm looking to get back involved with Engineers Without Borders, PSP. I'm based out of Northgate area, and in the past, I've worked on the Jamaica Biodiesel project with Carmen, so a bit of experience there in the whole biofuel and waste to fuel processing of projects, so looking forward to this one.
Hello, I'm Nate Jeniga. I'm a civil engineer focused in wastewater treatment. I've been a nerd about biogas since way before I was trying to be an engineer, and I stumbled across this project, and I've been working on it long enough that they've given me lofty titles like senior engineer or design engineer, which I have yet to grow up to fulfill, but yeah, it's been really good. I'm glad to see so many people.
I'm Jeff Gebster, an environmental engineer. Has experience with Engineers Without Borders. I met Gary a few months back, and this is my second official meeting, though. Been trying to get involved with some of the design with some of the folks here.
Dan?
Apologies for the battering. We have a keychain attached here. Yeah.
My name's Dan, and it's okay. My name is Dan, and I work in Nepal, and I'm leaving on Friday, and I'm going to be there till December 1st, and I'll be back here. And my most recent involvement with this project is I've been working with together with the kind of liaisoning a little bit between Seattle University and Kathmandu University to study how to make biogas in the laboratory in Nepal.
Great, thanks. So, I was just going to say we're going to give it back to Gary to continue with the agenda.
Let's see.
Yep, 1 second. Okay.
So let's proceed. We're a little off schedule. Let's proceed with the technical team progress review. We were going to start with Joe, Nate, and Kirk. Kirk can't be here. He has another meeting. I'll talk about the Nepal trip report. And Joe, you're at a big disadvantage because I know you have lots of wonderful pictures of that. But
We can gather behind us here, and he has them up now.
okay.
That's a good idea. Sorry about that.
Really fun.
And I pared down the amount of pictures by, just a handful now.
Okay, pull that out.
I don't know.
Hello, this is Tom O'Callahan remotely.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we forgot to ask the folks online to give their intros. Go for it. Go, Tom.
So I'm Tom O'Callahan, and I've been working with the project from when Gary first made the appeal at the EWB meeting, and then with Dan, and I'm going to be working on the Facebook page that the Biogas team has.
That's cool.
Thank you. Alex?
Sorry, it took me a second to get off mute. Yeah, Alex Storms. I'm a Boeing systems engineer. I've been on the project about a year ago, took about a year break, and just getting back in. So looking forward to hearing what's going on and the progress.
Great. Thanks, guys.
There's still risks, Alex. You're still, we still need you.
I thought you had those resolved, no?
Are you sharing the screen? Or?
Yes, it's sharing right now.
Oh, it is sharing. Oh, okay. I wanted to actually just, if for those of you guys, if you've never seen any images from this project whatsoever,
Yeah, it might be easier if we have on the back. Oh, there you go.
there we go. Oh, can we turn the brightness up on this?
Yeah, let me try that. And hold on a sec. Let's
Okay. I just, if you've never seen a image of from this project, this is our official rendering from before we actually saw the site in real life, or before I did. But that's kind of the shelter, the concept, and the concept around the shelter, at least, is that it's basically a hot box plus greenhouse put together so that it absorbs passive sunlight and heating, but then keeps it and hopefully maintains a relatively stable environment for the digester. And then I want to show the section really quick, and that's kind of, that shows you the concept as well, where you've got sunlight coming in during the day, and then the rest of the entire envelope is just super insulated, and you've got some water storage, and you've got some poop storage, and you've got the digester, and that's just kind of the general, I guess that's the only one there. So, oh wait, here we go. Let's see. That's the other section. You can kind of see how everything moves through the digester, and then we've got the plan. Again, we're kind of chaining a couple of large water storage tanks together, and we've laid out Nate's digester. And again, with kind of like a lot of insulation all the way around. So then I'll just go really quickly through our Nepal trip because, yeah, basically, as Gary said, our goal was to kind of get some approvals, but also we wanted to meet some locals, talk to them, and get as much site information as we could because we were basically working off of a lot of guesses. So
how many days were you guys up at Gorakshep?
2.5. Yeah. 5. Our schedule said 5, but it was so tough to live there. It was. Here's our fearless leader, Mingma. He's our coordinator on the ground out there, and he has his hand in a lot of projects. Here's the rest of the team minus me. Brenda, she became our kind of social media coordinator at the point and kind of did email blasts while Gary and I and Mingmo just kind of sat off and couldn't believe how much response we were getting. It's pretty cool. We walked, this is kind of like the center of the Khumbu Valley where we have where we basically needed to get all our approvals, and as Gary described, we ended up meeting with several entities, the pollution control people and the buffer zone committee, and both of them kind of partnered up with us by the end of the trip. This is from my slideshow, obviously, so it's got a lot of building techniques and a lot of building components that we found were available up there. So I threw a bunch of these in. We've got steel. We've got water tanks that are kind of prefabbed. These are 1,000-liter water tanks. We might have to do more of those as opposed to fewer, bigger ones. This is how everything is brought up to the site, basically on the backs of porters or the backs of yaks, or occasionally, actually we saw a lot of on helicopters too. But you know, the cost of bringing any material from Kathmandu is extremely high. I mean, it took us 9 days to get there, and it takes your average porter, I think, 5 from the nearest airport. and correct me if I'm wrong. Insulation, that's exciting. Homemade gaskets, which is kind of fun. This is our partnership agreement meeting where Gary and Mingma and I just kind of, well, we're all shaking hands because we all agreed that, like Gary said, the local entities are going to take over the project, and it will be their project once it's complete. There's some fun other photos. Here's a monastery up on the mountain. Here's Gary drinking a beer at off the trail near the monastery. We visited a nunnery where we kind of disrupted their prayer hall meeting. Here's a greenhouse, and it's really low cost. And Mingma built this, and it's high altitude, and I'm not sure why I put that in there, but anyway, so there's us crossing into the national park. Our site is on a national park, and it's controlled by like several different entities at the same time. Thank you. This is just a cool picture I took. But the fun fact is Gary climbed that mountain once, not on our trip, but I'm a double. But yeah, it looks really badass. There's a happy cow. Another greenhouse that is like, if you notice, like it's just kind of cheap plastic with a lot of ropes that tie it all down. It doesn't fly away in the wind. Here's kind of a higher tech building that the Italians built. A lot of integrated solar features. That's Pomarian.
Yeah, you took the same photo. I know the Italians, man.
Yeah, what's tragic is you actually have to walk off the path to get that perfectly lined up. Anyway, lots more solar panels. At least these, pretty commonplace. This is one of the dumping pits, the trash pits that we're actually trying to cut the waste back from. It's hard to tell the scale, but that's one of the barrels. So I would say it was maybe like 25 or 30 feet square, or 25 or 30 feet in both kind of directions. And then this is like one of 4 or 5, right, Gary? Yeah, and it does stink. Yeah, and a lot of plastic bags and stuff too, like kitchen scraps. So this is, now we're back, now we're up on the site at Gorkship. The elevation's just below 17,000. And so we took our plans and scouted out a bunch of options for sites, ended up with the one we thought we would have. And so we kind of laid out the footprint. Here's Gary with some measuring tape. And I kind of did an overlay here so you can kind of see, like, from above, this is the footprint of our site on this kind of little, I wouldn't say it's a hill, but it's like a little berm that that's kind of gotten a flat top. So basically, we just wanted to make sure that it would fit and that we could get all the access we needed. So this is facing east, basically. So this is the main town. Yeah, and this is the Porter Shelter right there. Yeah. The Porter Shelter is maybe between 50 and 100 yards. We can look on the map. It's a little easier. It's so easy to lose scale here, as you can tell, because the big mountains are really
that's
big.
like, I just want to say, like, that is the Everest massif right there. Like,
right,
the two peaks coming out. It's
right.
so cool.
So yeah, you've got another 5,000 or 10,000 feet to go above where we are here. And then, wait, where are we? Oh, there we go. Okay. Here's another view from the site itself. And you can kind of see this dried up lake bed, and just kind of we're in between 2 hills, but then there's like kind of old riverbeds or something between them. So there's actually really good drainage away from our site, away from our building. Here's another view. So Gary and I got out our surveying tools, or we got some makeshift surveying tools and did a topography survey. and I'll show you what we ended up with afterward. And in the meantime, Mingma rounded up a bunch of local dudes who helped us dig a 5 or 6 foot deep hole for a percolation test, which Trey prescribed and told us how to do it. So here's everybody digging a hole. There are a lot of boulders, Gary. We did get lucky, I think, that we didn't hit any huge boulders, but there were, basically the digging is slow because every time you put your shovel in the dirt, you hit a boulder, and then some guy with a hook has to basically pull that out. So it'd been really nice to avoid digging a lot in this project. Here's more grain size track. And then in my photos, I've got them all labeled, so how deep it was, or because we basically took samples every half meter, I think. Here's Gary and me trying to do it, but yeah, we're in there for 2 minutes. And then here's Mingla actually putting in the water into our perk test tube. And here's a series of, so this is kind of 8 shots, all kind of in panorama, just from the site looking out. I can explain more of what you're looking at if you're curious, but that's kind of just for our own information.
It looks kind of like a frozen desert at the top of the world.
Yeah.
Is that appropriate?
It's very moon-like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can take away from this the harshness of that environment.
Yeah. And then when we're done kind of doing our site work, we went up to base camp. This is just placeholder base camp, and we visited Dan's tent. And unfortunately, Dan wasn't there because he was up on the mountain. But it was pretty awesome, and his crew was awesome, and they fed us well. And and Gary broke both his boots on this trek on the same day. That's yellow duct tape or masking tape. We also checked out another much higher tech building that's going in down valley that's mostly steel, some concrete, and a lot of really fine stonework. This is Brandon. He's the guy from Colorado who happened to be checking or supervising at the time. Really beautiful stone. I tried to cut it. Took me a really long time to get nothing. This is actually EPS installation or XPS installation. That's that was a yak, and I think we're all done. Anyway, so that's kind of a taste of what we did, and yeah, I think so. I should say I showed some greenhouses just because we had a lot of discussion about greenhouses and how they may or may not fit into this project. Because one of the main things we saw one of the main feedback things we got consistently as we talked to locals is that they asked if they could have the effluent to grow things, right? And we at the time said, no, we're going to pour it in a hole that nobody will see it again. But people kept asking for it, and Mingna kind of liked the idea too. So we're looking at ways we can introduce that, but we're not. It's not 100% in the project yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have that much time here. I'm gonna keep it moving. This is Nate for whoever is listening. This is you can see this. This is a binder that was used to bind up this gorgeous construction document set that Joe and others have put together. This was donated by Kubota Corporation, along with 3 others. And then I also borrowed their hole puncher. It was like a 2-hole punch thing, and I was like eyeballing it with little construction lines to get a hole in. And this one I had to hole punch it twice so it wiggles. So I kept the worst of the 4, and then the other 3 went to the people. And if anybody wants to look through it, that's to make it look snazzy. We gave one to the people we visited, which were BSP. the Biogas Sector Partnership. And we've talked to them for a long time. They've been critical to the iteration process that's got our design this far. They have also brought up that part of their model is that effluent is always used as fertilizer, and they would like to see that happen. They talked about that the first time we met with them and tore apart our feasibility design. Since then, we've created like 3 iterations of a basis of design document, and we presented it to Prakash Lamichhane, who is he's now the director of Biogas Sector Partnership Nepal. And he started the meeting by not letting us run it at all and running it and saying that if you can build it to the specs that you have laid out, I have no worries that this will be effective. You know, he had the caveats on there, but he said pretty much I have wholesale buy-in to your design technically. And we went from there. Eventually, we gave him the construction set and used that to kind of walk through and answer some of his questions. He was saying that he would like to see a double wall, maybe with some insulation or at least an air void to help insulate the digester from the ground. And we showed him that we have an entire retaining wall filled with insulation. He's like, wow, this is much more than I would have expected of you. So you're doing really great. A long-standing question about waste storage was answered by BSP. Basically, they advise a hole in the ground, maybe with a lid, probably in the shade, and so to have like a prefabricated barrel where you don't get leakage in the shade is a really good design. They bought off on that. They described the startup procedure to us, which is basically fill the thing up until you get your gas seal, because the water line goes up in the dome, and then you let it sit until it ferments, and you'll get some gas production, and eventually you want to see flammable gas production. And at that point, you start the plug flow of like what comes in goes out, and that and from there. Okay, so wrapping up, BSP was really into it. They are going to maybe try and help us find some funding through the government. Don't hold your breath on that. Handshakes, a good picture that I don't have, and then from there we went and visited GAM Power, which is Nepali for sun power. I didn't know that. GAM is sun, and we lost. So the person I've been working with for a long time, who's a major solar engineer, and he was the guy who designed and implemented the array that Joe showed everyone at the Italian research station. He's actually leaving GAM Power and is going to be working with building his own company in Kathmandu, and is interested in having this be maybe their first gig. And that's interesting because it would be a new company, which has a risk with it, but it also, he's actually like a massive brain drain from GAM Power. He is the person who has built and successfully implemented a much larger array that's still functioning without failure at Lovace, which is like a 2-hour walk from Gorakshep. So we're working with him to get a quote from his new company. We did get a quote from GAM Power. They helped to refine the scope, and we kind of added some things. We added like a modem and a computer because we want to have like data logging. This is a really unprecedented venture, and we should really, before it goes to biological implementation, and definitely after that, we should be collecting data. So that was added in, a couple minor things. Guess what? It was expensive. Also, really interesting, they have decided to take on the entire scope of all electrical, and also helped work with us to figure out scheduling and like construction phasing. They would like to have their things in the dry storage of the building before they start actually building things. But it looks like we could do that in the middle of the summer into the fall. The third meeting we had was with Pumori Engineers. They're a local civil architect firm in Kathmandu. They largely only work in the Kathmandu Valley, which is a much lower area. in Nepal. That meeting didn't have as much useful feedback. For me, the most useful engineering, like technical feedback was that we're definitely going to need admixture for concrete curing at cold temperatures because they already use that in all their projects just in the Kathmandu Valley. He was like, you guys have way too much area of steel. Why are you putting that much in there? We're like, yeah, we'll work it down. They agreed to have free review of our structural documents, and that's really awesome. And the other suggestion that was really good, he was saying, you know, at the end of the day, it really might be worth it to have your whatever rebar packages, like whatever you're going to use in your concrete, consider assembling that in Kathmandu, where it's overseen by people who aren't like out of their mind from altitude, and then have that as a package, just like one helicopter load whisked up to the high country, instead of trying to assemble rebar cages on the site, which has merits to it. I think there's merits to that argument. We'll see. I'm not sure if how many helicopters Gary wants, but yeah. Oh, it's still 0. Okay. I'm being facetious. We do have some steel right now on people's backs. The lengths and gauges have been considered for.
So one thing about this is we're talking about. Are you talking about rebar or are you talking about structural?
Yes. I'm really talking about the rebar for concrete, but I know you have some beams that are open, but
I think in all these small pieces, we just have to tie it together. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Casting.
So that's really, we had those 3 really excellent meetings, and the 4th meeting that I got to be involved with was visiting the Kathmandu University with Dr. Bedmani, and to discuss that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Mazura, unless there are questions. Okay, let's keep it pushing.
Yeah, let's keep moving. So,
okay, well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here for your interest in this project, all the hard work you've been doing, and your insights. It's so important. And really, I've seen this project really make some great leaps, and I think this last, and just to take into account how many people are here at this meeting in the middle of August, we could be doing so much else. It's impressive. And I just want to thank you so much for all that you've been doing. And I've been working together, as Nate mentioned, with the people from Kathmandu University. And here's the students that made the biogas, who you guys met, and during your visit, right?
Yep.
And they've sent this little report, which was reviewed by Dr. Marsolek from Kathmandu University, or from Seattle University, and who spent some time in Kathmandu, like almost a month, setting up this project and this research project. The goal of the project was to study if you can make biogas at different temperatures, including 37 degrees, 30 degrees, 20 degrees, and 10 degrees Celsius. Thanks.
From human waste.
Yeah, no, from the human waste from Everest Base Camp. So it took them maybe 9 months to work through the bugs of the equipment that was leaking gas and various problems that they had in the lab. And they have some pictures in here in the study that we should publish somewhere, and like on our website. And then they review some of their findings and their results. They have some impressive graphs, and basically the conclusions from their study, as far as I can understand, is that it's much easier to make biogas from human waste at 37 degrees than it is at 10 degrees. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, and also there were some questions about coliform bacteria presence or the effectiveness of this in treating that. right? Because of we're calling it a pathogen treatment. So the jury's still out on that, and they said that they were going to review that some more at the request of Dr. Marcella. What else did you draw from your visit with them?
They were super happy, and yeah, at the end of the day, we have our desired operating temperature of 10 degrees to 20 degrees Celsius. That's what we're hoping to achieve. They were both producing gas. That's really excellent. And so from there, what we want to do is use, there are a lot of techniques to look at fecal coliform destruction, and one that's been used in a lot of papers and also some of the ones we found in Nepal is most probable number I'm sorry, that is one. The one we're going to use is colony forming units. So basically you dilute the water down until when you spread a petri dish, you don't just get a mat of stuff growing on it. And it's selected for just coliforms, right? So what you do is dilute it down until you're like, okay, I see 3 dots. And you're like, I had 10 milliliters and I have 3 colony forming units, which doesn't mean that was one cell. Maybe it's a cluster, but it's this heuristic method that's used internationally. The World Health Organization uses that one. So it would allow this study to become integrated and measured against all of these other Nepalese and other biogas things. And a thing that we really want to know is, are we treating this waste to a point where it's safe enough for just like open ground discharge? And so we're waiting on that. And we hope the answer is yes.
What do other digesters like this in other places at lower elevation, do they achieve that?
Yeah, so the main things that really affected are temperature. The hotter it is, the more you're going to destroy stuff. Luckily, that's also, you get more gas, right? The 37-degree one was the first to give us gas, gave us more gas. The other thing is retention time. And right now, so the longer it's in there fermenting, the longer, basically the fecal coliforms get eaten by the guys that make methane for us. So right now we're looking at a 100-day retention time, which is quite long. Mm-hmm. And that's within the guidelines of BSP. They say 90 to 120 days is the retention time they like to see for night soil digesters. And they do run digesters on just human waste. And at that point, it's used just for direct application as a fertilizer. They have no data on coliform destruction. So it's, these are their guidelines, and they're definitely the authority, but honestly, until we have plates being, counted from the effluent at Gorakshep, even the bench scale stuff at Kathmandu University isn't fully telling us what's going to happen. But again, data, we need to collect data.
Yeah, we got a lot of new people here, so I want to broaden this discussion a little bit. Mm. The intent was, we had predicted models first of all, this digester was going to use human waste, which is not a good input media. It's probably one of the worst in terms of carbon-nitrogen ratio. They want it to come from animals. Ours isn't. There was a question about the antibiotics that climbers take as part of their getting ready for the climb. Any kind of a sniffle, they hit the antibiotics heavy. So we had predicted performance in terms of gas production as a function of temperature and retention time. So this was the first chance to say, and it's thank you, Seattle University. Mike, the professor here, he went over there a month after the earthquake. He was there a month after the earthquake in Kathmandu, starting to get this set up. And he's going to ask a bunch of students, we've all been there, hey, what you going to do tomorrow morning? I'm going to go over there and stir up a bunch of human waste and mix it with water and put it in a beaker. And then they didn't have power, they had power on. So, this was going to be a test of whether we could produce methane gas and destroy the pathogens per the predicted modeling with real human waste from Everest Base Camp. This was the real test up early. We got a program or don't we? Because we don't want to know once we get it up there. The other bigger part of it was to get a formal relationship between Seattle University Engineering and Kathmandu Engineering. And they're forming, I think they've signed an agreement that they work together. So there's big, broad issues going on. And the test was we set for 9 months with no results. It's not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, and it won't work. But they had equipment problems, seal problem, blah, blah, blah. And when
the
we got
main problem was that they couldn't start it. They weren't using the right starter stuff, bugs, or what do you call it?
Substrate or inoculum. Yeah.
They tried multiple different kinds of that until they found a really live, active one, and that started it. And I remember BSP saying from some of our early meetings that it might be harder to get this thing going than you think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we have a question.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know that much about the background of this project, but I just was wondering, you were talking about having, collecting data by visual things, like being able to see things on. So I was just wondering if there was any way that you could correlate data collection of, if the fecal matter is, if all the pathogens are eliminated or whatever, if you could do that through measuring temperature, because if you're measuring the temperature, then at a certain temperature, if it's heating up, that, there won't be pathogens at like 160 degrees. I know that because the Bullet Center has this like info poster in the bathroom that I always read, but but it says 160 degrees. So I was just wondering, if realistically, like, how are you going to be collecting data when you actually install it? It's not going to be visual. It's going to have to be some sort of probably temperature related. So I was thinking maybe that would be something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the first data that we're going to collect is after it's built, and by a fall, it's going to be done being built, and then we want to have just water in there and have temperature probes, probably like Bluetooth connection, giving us readings so that we know, like, is this insulated to the point where it's working the way we think it shall or should, and then from there, the following spring, hopefully everything's good. Maybe we've overbuilt it a little bit and figure out what to do, but then you start the actual biological process the following spring. And from there's a lot of other data that needs to be collected. A lot of these things can be done with probes that we probably don't have a budget for, like pH is a super critical thing. Temperature, obviously we're going to have that one. But some of these things, the pathogen destruction, you can know that, but that happens in like thermophilic digesters, really hot ones that are around like 95 degrees Celsius or something. So in those hot ones, you can just be like, oh, it's hot enough. Those things are cooked. But for our one, even like the design thing, even if it's in the upper area where we'd like to operate, it's not going to, we wouldn't be able to use temperature as a measurement. But there's going to need to be, and especially in the first year of startup, there's going to need to be data collection that's going to be done by hand, like pH probably and some other things. But
those are the students that are there are going to be doing.
No, they have never been to that part of No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to quit my job and move to Nepal for a year. Watch that be real. I'm not even joking. No, seriously. So really importantly, to go back to what Joe was talking about, two key things happen. We have permission to build in the national park from Buffer Zone Committee, and we also have the people who control the mandate of solid waste management in the park related to tourism. The Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee, they already collect climbers' fees and regulate trash. They're the ones dealing with the poop right now anyway, and they have agreed to own, maintain, and operate, and that is what will keep this from being another monument to Westerners thinking that they're going to like fix things for poor people in other countries and then leaving and breaking it. So that's critical, and that's in these critical things. The agreement was that show me that it works, and then I'll take it from you. So we have agreed to we're a design, build, operate for 1 year. That's like our our agreement. So we have to achieve steady state with this system, and that's a tall order. That's a good trick. And in that, a lot of data collection would be really useful. And inshallah, I would like to go and be there somehow, wintering in the upper Himalaya, keeping a poop fermenter happy. So we'll see.
Well, I think there's a little disconnect. The design, one of the design requirements of the digester, which drives then how big a solar array you need, is that we want to try to maintain the digester internal temperature 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. So that puts you, what, max about 85 degrees, something like that. And that's why the testing was done in those temperatures only, a variant and a little bit above and a little bit below. But that 20 to 30 is critical in terms of producing the gas within a reasonable retention time. So everything is designed around that.
But your point, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Natalie.
Sorry.
What's
But
your name?
Natalie's point, my name's Dan.
Okay.
I think Natalie's point is really important, which is that if you're talking about killing the pathogens, then you got to bring this thing pretty hot. And our design is not about that, right? We're going for the slow cook. It's So
you're like offsetting the low temperature by having a longer retention time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So in that case, then you would not be able to use any of it as fertilizer then?
That's a hot topic right now. We're still totally.
That's phase 2.
That's phase 2. We would
Okay.
It would be really cool to. The functioning system is going to have what comes out of the digester go down into the soil below frost line, and then if later on after that, the whole thing is working in that first year, we have a dashed box for the adder. We have a stub for the concept of a greenhouse that would probably be seasonal, because if you looked at those little hoop houses, that's going to be destroyed in the winter up in the Himalayas. So you would take it apart in the winter time, and then what you use during the winter time is the first thing you build, which is we put it in the ground.
We don't, until we get, we're going to measure pathogen destruction in the lab environment in Kathmandu.
Okay.
That'll give us an indication, but the real test will be coming out of the digester. And then you can start looking at that in comparison to what the World Health Standards are in terms of using. There's lots of documentation on what you can use. And now again, these are human pathogens. These aren't animal waste. Mm-hmm. This is human waste. So it's kind of we're from Missouri, show us, show me the data. I didn't say data, show me. So we're very much aware of that, but that needs to be answered technically, and we'll get a good indication coming. That's why this testing, I wish Mike was here. This testing at Kathmandu University is so important. I'll give you one other aspect, is I'm out starting to try to raise funds. You can talk about this program, everybody's excited about it, the pictures are beautiful, but the first question you get is, will it work? Cut all the engineering BS. Will it work? All right. So the fact that we've got real data in a lab environment with real human waste from base camps, antibiotics and all, that's producing gas. In fact, at 37 degrees, produced so much gas it broke one of the beakers, I was told. So we say, and we got this. We were there, and they had nothing but failure for 9 months. And when we showed up at their doorstep to say we'd like to see what's going on, we met the students. They're all bright and very energetic. And they said, "Here, you want to see if it works?" And they lit it. It was kind of like, wow. And that was part of this whole trip. Said, wow, wasn't expecting that. What a way to end. So Joe and I got on an airplane. In fact, that same day, I got on an airplane and headed home. Job done. So again, we're engineers. We need to understand that, and if we do that with data, we have predicted. Okay, so there.
Also, just this is, you don't have to answer this because I know that we're short on time, but I was just wondering who's harvesting the energy? Like, is there a story really, or who's utilizing
the gas?
Yeah.
They own it.
It's going to be under the purview of Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee, but also kind of shared by the Tea House Association
Okay.
owners.
So are people going to be powered then by it? Or
It's going to be used for cooking.
for cooking?
Cooking, heating, and
okay,
lighting.
okay.
Yeah.
Our original intent was, since there's a porter shelter, which is very primitive, even more primitive than the tea houses we stayed, which can be primitive. Our intent when we started this was give it to the porter shelter. Let them cook, so they can cook their food, let them have lights.
Okay.
Now, again, when we turn ownership over, that will be up to the owners, but that would be our preferred, is that they share it with the porters.
Okay. I was just wondering for fundraising, because I think fundraising for not for all engineers, but at least from what I've been exposed to as an engineer, like it's really difficult, I think, to fundraise in general, and there's definitely a story that needs to be told, and that's kind of the only way that you can get people to be motivated enough to donate money is if they feel like there's something that they really truly are emotionally struck by. And so that's kind of why I was interested with the whole pathogen thing and having that outcome be used as fertilizer, because I feel like that is a powerful story and that would help with fundraising in the future. But that was just a thought, and I really didn't mean to make everyone go.
Like 5 years ago, we interviewed the tea house owners, Gar Shep, and like 4 out of 5 of them said they wanted it to go to the porters. Said those people are really poor and they really struggle, and it would be great for them to use it for cooking. And one tea house owner was like, well, I'd like to make electricity out of it because my bill is high.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 were like, we want to give it to the porters. And because the porters are going to be the ones who are running this thing. Because you have to remember, like, the recipe to cook this stuff is like, involves some like daily activity, right? Putting things in there, stirring stuff.
It's really hands-on.
Hands-on.
Yeah.
And the kitchen in the porter shelter is already it has a gas stove in it, and they pool their money to have cooking.
Okay.
So.
But Natalie, you're right. I mean, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm going to ask you next in a little bit. I mean, we need our message to go out in front. This is a tough market, partially because I think right now all the earthquake relief for Nepal, I think in the big picture, Nepal has really taken front and center for a lot of fundraising. And we come in now and say, hey, us too. And there's a subtlety in our message that this waste comes from the Western climbers. The rich Western climbers come over, climb the mountain, get all the glory, leave their poop.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we got to, and I'm asking you later for your help, how do we get that? What's the message of our fundraising that registers? Because we really are, it could be looked at, well, it's just a bunch of Westerners and it's their poop, so what's going on? Well, it's bigger than that, much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Back on track.
Now,
it's a good segue into fundraising.
No. Let's, we've got 5 minutes more for the technical guys exit or whatever we want to do. Anyway, you guys have covered a lot of territory rather rapidly, and we got a lot of new people. And let's stop for a second, and if there's some questions, and we don't have all the answers there. But we're a lot closer than we were 6 years ago. I mean, when we were saying, how do you spell biogas?
That's your agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're next.
Yeah. But I'm letting people ask questions.
So I agree that you guys have gotten to this point where it's got gas. It's awesome. Sounds like that's so I think Dan mentioned that like seeding the reactors is the right
inoculum?
Yeah, it's difficult. So it goes upwards in bioreactors a bit. And do you think you'll have trouble maintaining that, or you maybe have to reseed, or
so
do you have any feel for that?
We that was one of the specific questions we had with BSP, and they're saying, well, for one thing, there is an operating BSP digester in the airport town. Like the time that I went there, and like when they went there. You go to the airport town and then you walk up for 9 days or something, And in a small town called Muse, really near there, there's a functioning digester. So that would be a great place to get inoculum from a functioning digester that's already fairly acclimated to what's going on around there. It has cow waste and human waste going into it. But also the inoculum that ended up finally working in the Kathmandu University lab was just cow manure, so gobble. And once that was working and they had gas production, then they started to feather in how much waste there was and change the ratio until it was all waste. That one, then once they had that going, then they seeded the other one at the lower temperatures with that. So they had this it's like building a fire with like wet wood or something. You just gotta like coax it and make it bigger slowly. So and unfortunately, because we are looking for a lower temp guy, their metabolisms are slow, they grow slower. Yeah. It's hard to get, like 6 cubic meters of inoculum. Like that's a tall order. And they were saying, just throw it in there and wait for it to ferment, and they're like, if you have some inoculum, that's good. I mean, there's methanogens in our guts anyway, so just like throw them in there, they'll do their thing. I would really rather have something that was like successfully working, and we're talking about like bringing, gallons and gallons of shite uphill. Like it's gonna be interesting. I mean, the BSB guy was like, it's fine, just throw it in there, it'll ferment. He's like, yeah, you could use some inoculum, put some, or like, yeah, put the cow waste in there. You'll be able to get some of that, just like, grab bag approach. Like, we're gonna work with them on that more. But a lot of it, the main ones we want to use are cow manure, because that did work with a transition to human waste with antibiotics with it, and also the digester at Muse. And we're gonna see how much waste we can get from that, and try and bring, there's already waste porters, so if we pay them enough, like we could get it up to site while it's still living in a couple days. So
there's a LinkedIn group, Biogas Digesters. Do you know that?
You showed me.
Yeah, I subscribe to it. It's interesting. In this field, as you guys know, there's a lot of people involved in it, interested in marketing it, selling but not producing. And we've chased for 5 years people that claim that they have a low temperature inoculum. And they claim, yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I am electrical, so when you say inoculum, are you talking about like like a
Starter
microorganism?
Yeah.
It's like the outcome of compost, right? That's so
something that's living that you can inoculate it with.
Okay.
Well, basically, it's the contents of an active digester.
So
it's working good and producing a lot of biogas. Go in there like a scoop it out, and fill up like a jug of 5 liters, and then carry that over to your digester, your experiment, and dump it in there.
Yeah. So it is.
It's like a sourdough starter.
But it's the outcome of composting. It's if you had a compost there, you could be able to make this.
Well,
and put it in the digester.
It needs to be fermenting. You want anaerobic fermentation. And so, because it's a chain reaction of like lots of little guys where like each one is eating the poop from the other one until at the very end you have acetic acid, you have vinegar, and it's getting cut into methane and CO2. And that's the final guy. And then after that, nobody's eating the methane. So and it's really hard because they all grow at different rates. The ones with better metabolism are eating the bigger stuff up at the top and using oxygen and stuff. And once all the oxygen and even the combined oxygen has gone away, eventually all that's left is things that can ferment, these little small volatile fatty acids, and that's when you actually get methane.
But this is a rich field that we need to explore. In fact, there was a study we shared of some guy was up there looking at all the solar panels that are used in the Kumbu and discovered in the rivers at Gorkshep or in the water, frozen, were bubbles, and when they broke the bubbles, it was methane gas. So there are naturally occurring low temperature inoculum that will break things down. Again, it's an area we're aware of. We have not.
Oh, believe I'm gonna if I'm living up there, I'm gonna have my little poop fermenter on the back porch.
No.
Like lake sediments.
And you're gonna go up there and light. You're going up there and light that methane gas trapped in the ice.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a rich field that we need to spend time on. So, okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about. It's got to come off of here.
Okay, one moment.
So and I know we're throwing a lot of stuff at you. So when we get done, we'll try to. Let's see, program management charts for 8, right there. What I'm going to talk about is what keeps me busy. And I got it broke out into 3-4 areas. Grant proposals, public relations, what's the last one? Fundraising. Yeah. And again, be a little easier with charts. But let me tell you, we have submitted with a life-saving effort from Joe. There's an outfit called UIAA. They're located in Switzerland. It's the International Climbing and Mountaineering Federation. It's a $5,000 grant that they keep encouraging us to propose. We proposed once and we're not selected. They came back and said they coached us on what they were looking for. So we submitted in June the grant proposal. On the 30th, we'll know by this October again. And it's $5,000, but we're getting recognition for what we're doing in their website. And I mean, they're big climbing. And it's part of the fundraising strategy, which says, hey, they've got to be part of this thing. It's their problem. And so this is good. They followed up then, I'm just reading off the charts, you would have seen if I could have thrown it up. They followed up with they needed a video from us for a presentation the president of UIAA was going to make. And so we gave them Lakpa Rita's Sherpa's video that's on our website. And if you've been following the paper, he's local here and he's climbing all over the world. He summited Everest again. I mean, I don't know, I've lost track of how many times. So that's in. We'll wait. I don't count on it. We're asked to look at an outfit called Cornerstone. It's a U.S. firm or U.S. agency out of Colorado. It was a grant. I contacted them. I said, the way I read it is for U.S. projects only, and they agreed yes, so we didn't waste our time on it. The next one came down the pike was one that Dan sent me to, came out of the Harvard Kennedy School, called the Belfair Center for Science and International Affairs. And I went through that. It's a big grant. And when I looked at the winners in the past 2 years, I said, hey, we're so far out of that league. I mean, you just look at the board of directors from these companies that are winning this, so don't waste your time. It's a low probability. And the last grant that we have on the books right now, there is a $100,000 potential college grant from Grinnell, which is Nate's alma mater. Yeah. And they have, yeah.
I know Grinnellians all know each other. It's crazy. I know somebody went to Grinnell and she's like, I'm going to go tell her. I'm like, oh, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no. So that's coming up the end of the year. We're looking at it. We've looked at it now for 2 years. When you see who's won, I mean, the winners of this thing are solving world health, world poverty, AIDS, and what else? And gun control, all at the same time. Yeah, and you kind of say, okay, and it's a lot of work. It has to be a professional proposal, and it's a lot of work. And I think we got to decide whether we can spend the resources, which is time and energy, to go after that. I mean, we'd love to have it. I mean, because $50,000 goes to the person we nominate for it, Nate. $50,000 goes to us. And
I would use it to go live in Nepal.
Yeah. I mean, if we could get it, that would be wonderful. But I think we got to be realistic. When we're not doing grants, and most of this stuff I send out, and if anybody wants to see it, I'll just forward the stuff that I mean, these guys that have been with us, this group for 6 years, know I'm a prolific emailer. I sent it out. I still haven't convinced them. If it's addressed to you, then I really would like you to read it. If you're CC'd on it, read it if you want. But anyway, I load up their inbox, and they usually know it's coming out Sunday night. That's my productive. There's a great article in Outside Magazine, great climbing magazine, great outdoors magazine. You see it's on the shelves everywhere. It's called The Feces Problem on Everest Needs a Solution. It's written by Brent Bishop, who's here in town. His father's the famous bishop. Incidentally, that's where I was having a beer. That was for his father there. I want to tell everybody.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah. I stopped there, this memorial to his father, who was on the first American Everest team at Summit. So, and the deal is, Brent says, hey, stop and say hi to my dad and have a beer with the boys. So I have a beer with the boys. It's very emotional. Anyway, I was there. But that's a great article. And clearly, Brent's friend, he's a friend of Dan's, he's a friend of mine. He's going forward. He's a world-renowned climber. He's summited Everest, I think, now 3 times already. I was there again this spring. And if you get a chance, read it. He didn't point at us directly. I'm kind of disappointed in that. But the problem is it needs a solution. And he knows about our solution. I think the big thing that happened in this trip is Brenda Bednar came along with us. She's a nurse practitioner, OB, or she's a midwife, has worked in Africa and other exotic places, came along with us for the trip, and because she's a friend, she saw what we're doing, and she established a Facebook account on the fly. And if you haven't read that, it's fabulous. My wife sent me an email, said, who is this Brenda lady? She writes with such enthusiasm and not like you bunch of engineers. So it's a great one. And she's now finished. I mean, it was as many daily reports as she could get out because the electricity charging up anything is a hit and miss. They say they have Wi-Fi. That's also a hit and miss. So you pay to have your laptop charged up, and then you can't get on Wi-Fi. So anyway, that's it. But it's a great account of our trip to Nepal and what we accomplished. And Brenda's done a great job, and I'll say that. At the same time, we had a brochure in Nepalese that Joe put together that we left with the tea house owners. We met with all 5 of the tea house owners at the workshop. I mean, we're going to come in and build this in their backyard, guys. You ready? And they'd seen Nate before 3 years ago. We're back now with different design. We had it located, and it went over very well. I mean, it was such a reception. Yeah, they said yes. Yeah, how can we help? And the way they helped us, they sent over 8 young workers to help Joe and I dig that damn hole. And it cost what? $8 for a pot of tea. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to say that if you guys do have a Facebook page,
yes.
I think a really good next step would be setting up a link for PayPal for donations, because that guy who wrote in Outside Magazine that article, if you're Facebook friends with him, or maybe if you have his contact information, he could post a link to your Facebook page, and then I think you would, yeah, you could get donations.
So then I got coming out of, there was an article released in July of 2016 from a Dutch scientific magazine called Scientia NL, and we contributed that. Joe provided material, I provided material, and that was released July, but it was in Dutch. Obviously, we had it translated. It didn't translate well. Apparently, they can't use the S word in their publications. That surprised me. And then following that, then I got an invite from a thing called Kids Week newspaper. It's a Dutch kids paper, and they wanted an article, and they released an article again in Dutch. I have not seen that article, but I mean, I don't expect anything grandiose to come out of that other than say, hey, there's interest at a lot of different levels, and that's fine. We'll keep feeding that. Oh, and the last thing is, through the Rotary Club in Gig Harbor, where there is some money, I've been invited to come over and speak to a bunch of, I thought it was Boy Scouts. Turns out, no, they're Cub Scouts that are graduating Boy Scouts. And I'd already committed I'd come talk to them about Everest. And so I'm going to donate an evening talking to
You can't use this.
a bunch of, no, a bunch of smart, how old are Cub Scouts? Are they 12?
Gary, this is Tom.
Yeah.
So those interviews you're getting and like the articles on this or related topics, I'd like to post those to the Facebook page.
Okay.
And also at the end of the evening, if or during the meeting, if I could get some a group photo or some candid shots to post on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, let's talk fundraising, because we got to go raise
A lot.
yeah. How much? Let's have a room. You've seen the design. What do you think that's going to cost a guard ship? All hand labor. Keep talking. Oh, I don't like you at all. No. We have. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm in charge of fundraising when I'm not being Mr. PR and personality and interfering with engineering. We do have a fundraising plan in place, and I want to share it. I mean, I'm an engineer, all right. I'm not a fundraiser. I don't pretend to be. I hate it. It frightens me. It terrorizes me. I've done a lot of crazy things. Nothing like going out and asking for money. It just bothers me to the core, and yet we got to do it. And we got to raise probably $300,000. That $300,000 builds the first digester, gets it up and operating for a year, and we turn it, and all the manuals and the training and whatever it takes to hand that thing off efficiently.
Yeah, that includes indirect costs as well. Like we're talking about the laborers, lodging and food, having multiple different people from the team go and visit during specific phases of construction to make sure that the different systems are built spec or in a way that will function. So that's like the whole thing. That's like if Joe's up there making sure that the masonry is being laid out correctly, like we're considering like the tea that he had that morning as well. So it's a big number, but it's
All inclusive.
It's all inclusive, and it also has safety factors in there that we're hoping to refine.
But no salaries locally. Nobody, I mean, we're going into this, it's an all volunteer effort on our part. We pay for help in Nepal and construction and consulting, blah, blah, blah. But that plan's in place, and I view that as kind of a 3-tier. I went out to my friends, which made me feel very naked, on Facebook, and we made a GoFundMe campaign, specifically raised money to cover some of our costs, not all of them obviously, of this trip to Nepal. So I've got kind of a 3-tier. We kind of worked the first tier, which is the social media fundraising, which is, we did it, and we raised about $3,600, and then Joe raised, got a grant from Architects Without Borders, thank you very much, so we got a lot of the costs covered of our trip to Nepal. But that's over, that's behind us. So anybody, and I'll ask at the end of the meeting, anybody that says, hey, I got some ideas and some interest, I can help you in the fundraising, because we now need to look at the plan and say, yeah, that's a good plan. Now, how do we implement it? Because we've stepped up to another brink on this program. The brink before was, will it work? Will it produce methane gas? Will it destroy the pathogens? And so we're getting technical answers for that. The next question is, can we afford it? Can we raise, if we can't raise money for it, then again, it's not going anywhere. So that's our next big hurdle. And I wish there was somebody better that could do that. So fundraising, it's in place. I'll share it. I'll talk about it. I got no rights of ownership or pride in ownership of doing it. I put it together. Tell you where I got it? Off the damn internet. They said, how do you raise funds? Oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. Okay. Thank you, internet. So I did go with Dan. Dan invited me down to a big fundraiser. He gave me a 10-minute, he says, you got a 10-minute elevator speech. We're going to talk to a bunch of people at Key Center at a wine tasting party. So I did. So I ventured out. Okay. Still alive. Trey had a presentation that you made to, and I couldn't find the right name, but I'll call it the Seattle Project Engineering Group. Wasn't that what that group was that you went and gave a
So
presentation?
the one that Carmen and I did?
Mm-hmm.
Women Leaders in Construction.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That was a good one. So we are stepping out gently. We haven't taken a big leap. We've got a GoFundMe campaign in place. We recently updated it. And basically what I did was take the recap that Brenda put together, since this was the whole of the Paul trip. It's interesting. That thing has been updated, and that was what they advised me to do. Update it, and I haven't seen a dollar come in. That's supposed to get it reinitiated. You ought to be seeing flow now of money because, I mean, we had targeted everything else to we're leaving. We need the money before we leave. So now we're back. Here's a recap. It's all good. It's all positive. Ought to see a lot of money. Nothing. Zippo. So I think that's a social media kind of thing, and I don't know if we can play that. It's not going to raise $100,000, of course. It's not going to raise big money. We're going to have to step outside of that. That's part of the three-tier approach. We've done, that's tier one, go locally, small, social, blah, blah, blah. We've done it. We've got contributions that, and we're now set up that we can receive money from GoFundMe, from PayPal. We have a corporate checking account and Engineers Without Borders. And I'll talk more about that last in a minute. So we've got avenues for people that don't have money. We just got to find the way to ask them. Okay? So, we got, I don't know any other way of getting money other than cash. I don't want cash. I want it accountable. I don't want to be held accountable for it. We have started our own 501c3, but that's going to be a long process. But we got to do it. And that has all sorts of accounting constraints when you do that. You got to have books that are auditable, blah, blah, blah. And we talked earlier, we got a preliminary cost and schedule developed. You've heard what the cost is, and we're going to have a chance to work that down. Okay, my last subject before I run out of time, this is all on a chart. Too bad you missed it. We've been working with Engineers Without Borders. Dan and I first met with them and Carmen 6 years ago. And we've been in this love you, don't love you, like you, don't like you, you know, because we don't fit the EWB mold. We did, at the encouragement of EWB, submit a formal proposal to be a typical project with them. They didn't accept it. I wouldn't have either. We couldn't answer some of their basic questions, which really was community involvement, because we hadn't had that much with them. So they rejected us, but we are official. There is in writing a memorandum of understanding signed by them that we are an official EWB project. I mean, that's it. Now, we're in process then to get a three-party memorandum of understanding signed, which would be us, which would be this new EWB A and DT Service Corps program, which fits us very well, and then the local Seattle professional chapter of EWB. So it'll be a three-party. We could be a week out from finally signing that form, although I said that up 2 months ago.
So, sorry, what are the stipulations of that?
Which one?
What are the stipulations of that agreement? What exactly?
We'll send it out. We'll share it. Basically, it's saying that we love each other, and we're going to use EWB USA's tax ID for fundraising until this team gets their own 501c3, okay, and that they will be providing a peer review, which is what we're working towards right now.
Right, in the beginning of September.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you read my chart.
I did.
Yeah, that's the next bullet. EWB, as part of that signature, is they will perform a technical peer review of our design. Now again, the words are written, I assume they're going to stand, we are technically responsible for the design. EWB provides technical oversight of that design, and they're going to have this first review, we're looking like the first part of September. That's a big review that we need to pass, technically. And the second part of that is then, and I think that's why that's being rewritten a little, we want to kind of downplay that a little bit, we will use their 501c3 status for donors that want a tax benefit from donating. It will go through the EWB books, and there'll be a deduction for their handling and then we have access to that money to pay our bills. And so
How will that comment process work? Let's say they find something that's really big that they want us to, that they don't like at all, and they don't want to accept it. Are we going to have a cycle?
There'll be a cycle. So the goal is to have final review comments by the end of the year, so that they can go and start building it in the spring of 2017.
Carmen, do you know if this process is applicable to PAWS? So
Probably not. I'll be talking with the R&D group, which is the new service corps subset, on Monday. We have our regularly scheduled meeting, so PAWS is new as well, which is a whole system within EWB about tracking.
we don't have to go into it.
We don't have to go into it, but
I have a
similar, but
question.
yeah, unrelated.
Yeah. So is this seems a little bit different than a traditional EWB project,
Which is why it's under the Research and Development Group,
Okay.
which is a new umbrella under Service Corps.
So how do projects look like that in the long term, right?
That's a good question, because this is probably the most furthest along project within that group. And in a sense, we're kind of making things up as we go along, because this is not traditional, but we also want to make sure that we're volunteers and we're disseminating information to other folks that might want to do something similar, but maintaining rigor of engineering review and community development.
Traditional EWB projects are like you go to a community and you work on several different projects within one community.
Which is why this failed that hurdle, which is why we're now in a different path.
But the connection, in my view, with EWB is both short-term, let's get this project, and we seek their technical ideas. If they got, if we're doing something, stupid, let's know about it before we get up there and dig the hole. But long-term is, and this is part of the agreement with SPCC, and when we signed that agreement, was when we turn this thing over, we've got their trained operators, we turn it over to them, we then form a support cadre that would consist of EWB, our team, probably BSP, to say, when that operator has troubles, he's got a phone number to call. So something's not right, and that would have to be a funded, I'll call it a consortium of those parties to say, we have a responsibility to make sure that keeps running, but EWB's primary interest is long-term perpetuation of this elsewhere.
And there is an in-country EWB staff member, actually, in Nepal and Kathmandu. We don't have to go into it, but it's a long-term relationship, so it's another vetting process, which is why we have that. We work so hard to maintain the connection.
And that's why our design has to be what the culture, like transparent, whatever you want to call it. It says, hey, that design is available for elsewhere, wherever, particularly EWB, then is the transmission. It says, hey, we see a similar problem here. We have a design that we've been part of, it's proven itself, let's see if we can help that community. But this group, this program, would slow down to become consulting unless they want to get involved in the next EWB project. That's our exit strategy. Okay. So that was, yeah, so that's a thing in work. We've had many iterations of the MOU, as many of you know. I think we're close and we'll get there. Because it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody's got everything to win, and why wouldn't we do it? Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. Now, I'm going to close it. My last chart. Can you find it? Should be right there.
Which one?
Should be help needed. There. It's 2 bullets. Please, I need help raising funds. I need somebody who says, hey, I've done this before. A piece of cake. 300 grand, is that all? That's what the person I'm hoping is in this room. If you don't have it, I'll follow any lead in the world. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm afraid to ask for money, but I'll ask for help. Second bullet I have is what I need, and I'm not speaking for engineering. They've probably got another list of their own of what they need from this group, because you're all engineers. We need to set up what I call a cost policy and accounting, a way of tracking the money as it comes in, how it gets in, how it gets spent. It's got to be auditable, and I'm not an accountant. I mean, I'm running the checkbook. I don't even like doing that. but we've got to have a formal policy. We got to have one that EWB will accept as well to say when an invoice comes in from BSP, they say, hey, you asked us to do these tasks of which we're on contract for. Here's our invoice. We want to get paid, and we need it in 30 days or whatever the number is. We have a way of reviewing it internally, saying, yeah, that ought to be paid, and it's got to come out of the money that's sitting in EWB's 501c3 account. It's got to come out of their account, so they've got to look at it, and they've got to agree, yeah, you got to pay BSP and send us the money or somehow, and then we pay the bill. That whole process, including just even the forms, I don't care. We need to have that thing documented because nobody wants to go to jail for saying, hey, I wondered what happened to that money. I don't. That's my last help. So if you know somebody, I mean, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I've asked people for pro bono, hey, help me set up a finance accounting system. It's that simple. It's got to be. Somebody says, hey, I don't know either, but I can go online and probably find one.
I have some suggestions for you.
Yeah. Well, that's how I got, how I got the taxes done. I called up H&R Block. I was already late. And we had money. I mean, last year. We had more this year. So I went in and pleaded my case with, hey, would you do this for free? She did. So, yes.
Well, it kind of seems like since there's so much money to raise, it'd be kind of beneficial to have a fundraising committee that is committed to fundraising. And then also just going back to, having, I think, links on your Facebook page and the website of PayPal donation buttons, because it needs to be easy. Like, if people are even moved enough to donate money, it has to be easy. Like, if it's difficult, they're not going to donate money. So doing that is really important. And then once that's set up, I think it'd be good to first kind of develop your story and make it as emotionally driven as possible. And if there is no story there, then I think there's so many groups in Nepal that you could pair with. Like, I personally am friends with someone who, Carmen, I talk with about her to Carmen, and she works with a nonprofit in Nepal that does things that are with schools in these villages. So, I mean, like, even it pairing with other groups is kind of a fundraising strategy to be able to raise money together and come to an agreement of like splitting proceeds. But if you don't have an emotionally striking story, then you're going to have to get with a group that does, because that's kind of the only way. And then also, I'm going on a tangent, but this is the last thing, like the fact that there are mountain climbers and that is such kind of this like wealthier community, I think it's really important to try to tap into that. I think if there are people writing articles about this problem, to have them promote this, that's such a large web of people that are exposed to this story. Like, if they could just, if we communicate with them and then they agree to even post a link on their Facebook. I mean, even though social media, it's harder to raise large sums of money, I think when the network is as big as it is with these huge climbers that have really committed followers, you could really tap into a lot of people. So that's.
Do we have even like a notional budget that we could kind of measure the costs associated with kind of the cost reviews?
We have a notional budget, 300,000 plus, that needs a lot of refinement.
It's a cost estimate, though. It's broken down.
So yes, we can post something, and I agree. Just to kind of wrap things up here, so project team had a lot of success in Nepal on this last trip. We're making progress on the design. We have a connection with EWB, including the peer review as well as fundraising opportunities for tax relief, aside from the other options that we have for raising funds. And then that'll be the next steps, as well as continuing the design and raising the funds. So we'll definitely tap each of you to see what might be the best use of your volunteer efforts.
Should we decide that now as far as what we're interested in? Or are you going to have a sheet that'll show what each person's interests are? As far as it seems like there's 3 segments right now, or I guess technically 4, so public relations, fundraising, grants, and then I guess all the other technical stuff.
Fundraising and grants, I would think, would be similar.
Okay, so like fundraising / grants and then the other 2.
Mhm.
Should we?
I think the big one, the big one is fundraising.
Mhm.
I mean, and
Another quick thing about fundraising. So EWB's PSP chapter as a whole is having a fundraising meeting sometime within the next couple weeks. And it's specifically it's for all projects basically in the Puget Sound Professional chapter. And they're going to try and coordinate a lot better all the other groups who are trying to fundraise. So the Sierra Leone project, the Uganda project, and the Nicaragua project, they're all really short on funds and looking to raise a large amount of money soon as well. So I think coordinating with them would be really important. I personally am planning on going to that meeting, and I wouldn't mind representing this project, or if anyone else who's more experienced with the project wants to join as well. So let me know and I can forward you the invite and the location and logistics on that.
Yeah, and I think it would be a good idea for this group to get together before that meeting
Sure.
to just kind of make sure that we're on the same page.
well, we've had a fundraising group, and Tom was part of it. Trey was part of it. See, one doesn't want to admit to it. Because I think that fundraising group has to say, who are we targeting? And if we got a limited amount of resources, raising $5,000 doesn't cut it. I mean, it's nice. The grant's nice, but we got to make this big leap, and I don't know where we make that leap. I've got a complete list that's been compiled of the sporting equipment companies, like the REIs, like the Feathered Friends, like Marmot, like Columbia, with their, I think it's got both addresses, and at that time off their website, who the PR or who their content. Yeah. So this group, whomever's going to help me on it, I think we got to figure out what's our strategy. We can spend a lot of energy raising $5,000, same amount of energy, it's a big shot, it's a big gamble, it's a roll of the dice.
So why don't we take the lead?
Works?
Maybe Rowdy, you and I can chat after this meeting. And what we'll probably do is, since we have all of your contact info now, and there's other people not here or on the line that might want to be involved, we'll send out a doodle poll for the next, maybe in the next week or two, to see some windows of opportunity. And if you can join us, great. We'll do a go-to meeting as well.
One quick question. So this $300,000 that includes the first year of operations. So what? You sound like you guys have a schedule as well. So when do you really need to, usually equipment only pay 10% up front. So when do you really need to have commitments for the money?
Well, I think that's good. The schedule, very loose. Kind of 2 points. Start construction spring, because there's only a period of time that you can work. Start construction, which would be to start actually, I don't know whether you guys decide to build the building first and then put the digester in it, or build the digester and put the building around it.
They go together.
Okay. So that would start spring of next year. Finish fall of next year. Start the water tests to say, and that test is to say, can we maintain that digester between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius with water for that time period during the critical months of when there's poor solar energy? Can we do it? Have we got a heating solution that keeps that water? I think the way it's designed, we probably got way more than we need, but that's my personal. Anyway, so there's your answer. Spring and fall of next year.
But it'd be good to break up those
Now,
numbers.
The question is, can we start without the full amount? Can we start, we have 200,000?
No, I mean.
Maybe like early summer,
It's
maybe fall. For the equipment. The building materials that's the most expensive.
the quick, if you're talking about electrical or plumbing, that would be all done by one contractor who would be providing. It is slightly phased. Like the electrical stuff is going to happen later in midsummer. So you're going to start out with insulation materials in the building.
You got to go.
But
thank you.
It was nice meeting you. Nice meeting you as well.
Yeah, that helps.
Do you have a construction schedule?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very detailed.
And it's on this day you're going to do that, and then this week you're doing that. Do you have that all?
Yeah, we that's something that Kirk and Mingma works on, and also it works with. We went over that for specifically the electrical and
PV array, that was all something we worked with Power to say like how long and what sort of things, and we have crash time in there. Like
Maybe you could hook that up to your fundraising thing. Yeah. I think like, okay, if we're really going to do this, because, you know, if you're talking about transportation, there's cheaper times to get stuff up there.
Yeah.
And there's a really expensive times to get stuff up there when all the local people are busy hauling other stuff. So if you needed to have stuff brought up there then, it would cost you like 40% more.
Yeah. I think spring 2017 to have like maybe 200 of the 300 raised is not aggressive. You know, I will be really impressed if that happens. And
I'd like to say that we are getting a little more in the weeds here, and I also have to get going. So just in terms of wrapping it up, and we're going to put together a meeting to talk specifically about money, and then we'll continue with the technical meetings as well.
Do a poll for people interested in fundraising committee to come.
Cool. So before we all leave,
Alex, are you still there?
Does somebody in the room have like a cell phone camera that could take a picture?
We're gonna do it. Yeah, we're gonna do it through this thing, and then I'll do a screenshot. So before we all leave, can we just go into the back? And I'm gonna turn the laptop around, and we'll do a one little group shot here. So.
Tom, is Jan with you?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And Alex, are you on?
Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay, good.
All right. So you'll get to see the group here.
What are we going to do?
We're just going to take a little group photo.
We should have worn our t-shirts.
I was going to wear that today.
We have t-shirts.
Yeah, they're embroidered.
Yeah, embroidered. Come on, slide in.
We got this way more young.
We do cheers. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, they like, I don't even need to crouch.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. We got lots of photos. We'll Photoshop those.
I don't think I saw Gary in that picture. Was
What
Gary
was
in the
that?
picture? I didn't think I saw Gary in the picture.
Well, he wasn't mine.
Yeah, you lay down on the table. Yeah. Your diva.
I know.
Okay, if it's on the cell phone.
Oh, yeah. It's on the cell phone. I got
Carmen's gonna
that.
get in one too.
Okay, I'll Photoshop
Oh, yeah,
these.
Are we done?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you get a picture with Carmen. Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right, back in. Another group photo.
Now our heights are different.
All right. All right. Come right in behind you.
All right. Oh. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming to this hot night.
Let's do it.
That's fine.
Nice meeting you finally.
Good to read you.
Thank you guys online. We're going to hang up now.
Thank you.
Bye.
I know, it's funny because I didn't recognize you at first. You looked